You have crazy protesters who have no idea what they're protesting. They're living a life of deception because it's cool, because it's popular. Why can't they be a leader? Why can't they learn and understand, open their mind, leave and escape Egypt? After years of harsh slavery, abuse, and captivity, it's finally time to free the Jewish people. Moses is instructed by God to confront Pharaoh, and he's going to ask for a sign to know that you're legit. Take Aaron's staff, throw it on the floor, it's going to turn into a snake. You know what Pharaoh responds to that? He one-ups him, or tries to. He says, my magicians can replicate that, and he tries replicating that. What was the purpose in this sign? Pharaoh didn't buy into it anyways. He didn't believe it. So why are we going into this dialogue? Why are we getting into this debate? Why are we trying to impress our abusers? Confront our abusers. Yeah, that's a good thing. Impress our abusers. Look what I can do. I can turn a staff into a snake. So, what is the point? Moses wasn't trying to one-up Pharaoh. He wasn't trying to impress his abuser. He was communicating a very important message about what leadership is, what leadership should be, what Pharaoh should be, what Pharaoh could be compared to what Pharaoh is. What leadership should be, guiding people toward where they need to be, not pushing them or abusing them into where you want them to be. Staff represents leadership. In fact, the Hebrew word for staff, mateh, comes from the word lahatot, to sway, to guide, to push people or pull people into the direction that they need to be. The staff was that tool. Another Hebrew word, shevet. Shevet also connotes the idea of channeling. It's a tool with which Moses channeled something bigger than himself, channeled something divine, because that's what leadership is. Leadership is about integrity. Leadership is about what you are needed for, not just what needs that you create. In fact, the Jewish king, which is the epitome of leadership, has an obligation to carry with him a Torah scroll. He has to write his own Torah scroll and carry that with him, because his integrity needs to be in check. Wherever he goes, he has to have that objective moral compass. He needs that. And Moses says to Pharaoh, what you should be is a staff. What you have become is a snake. A snake represents deception. The snake is the one who deceived Eve, Chava, in the Garden of Eden, got her to eat from the tree of knowledge, convincing her that what is really bad for her, what is really bad for the world, is in her best interests. The snake represented the epitome of manipulation. What started off as leadership, a staff, evolved into manipulation. And how did that happen? Arrogance, ego. Pharaoh was the epitome of ego. God tells Moses to confront Pharaoh, to introduce the plagues to him, the first plague. Meet him when he's in the Nile River, early in the morning. Why specifically at that spot? So the Midrash says that Pharaoh made a deity of himself. He made a god of himself and convinced his entire population that he doesn't have human needs because he's beyond that. So he had to take care of his human needs early in the morning. And God tells Moshe, walk in on him. Crush that ego, man. Because he abused it. He abused his ability to be a leader, and he turned into a deceiver, into an abuser. And the moment that he abuses that power, we got to crush him. We got to break him. And that's what all the plagues were about. The plagues were about revealing what Egypt really was. Let's take the first plague, for example. The Nile River, turning it into blood. It wasn't just a punishment or a retaliation. We cut off your water supply. But it was a revelation of what Egypt really was. The Nile River really was a bloodbath. Didn't look like it. Not everybody knew it. Let's reveal the truth. Because it's about revealing what this really is compared to what you could have been. Several decades ago, there was a man who was an evangelical Christian missionary, quite successful, unfortunately, and had succeeded at the time in converting many Jewish people. He was charismatic, he was passionate, he was knowledgeable, and he was good with people. They stationed him in Israel at the Western Wall. He lived in Israel for 10 years and even learned Hebrew. And he would prey on vulnerable Jewish people who are looking for meaning, who are looking for purpose, and he'd prey on them and abduct them. In the 70s, Jews for Judaism were holding a symposium and educational day for anti-missionary work to train Jews, to empower Jews. This was being held in Los Angeles at the Coliseum. The evangelical church had this missionary fly out to be part of the event just to scout out what's going on with the Jewish community, because this was going to be a big deal. He shows up, he's listening, and as he's listening to them talk, he describes how he feels his whole world crashing in on him. And he says, I'm living a life of deception. What am I doing with myself? He started studying and learning more, and he eventually converted to Judaism, had become a rabbi, and now works for Yad L'Achim, a counter-missionary organization. He started living a life of deception, and as soon as he called it out, he started living a life of leadership. He made that decision. I'm not going to be living a life of deception. I'm going to be living a life of leadership. And you know how he got there, how he made that transformation, how he made that shift? Awareness, humility. He could have been arrogant. He could have said, sorry, this is the more fun, convenient path. This is what I know. But he wanted the truth. He humbly wanted the truth, and he pursued it. Unlike Pharaoh, who couldn't let go of his arrogance, who couldn't let go and recognize where he really comes from, who he really should have been, the leader he should have really been. We short sell ourselves, and we just do what we know. We do what's convenient. And sometimes it's harmful. It's harmful to ourselves. It's harmful to others. And we're deceiving ourselves. We're being dishonest. We're being like a snake when we should be a leader. We should be leading our life. We should be living our life intentionally. We should be like that staff. How could we become leaders in our own lives rather than just deceivers? Because deceivers, manipulators are looking to take, are looking to gain. Leaders are looking to give and bring value, bring meaning, bring purpose. But it takes a shift from being arrogant like Pharaoh to being humble like Moses, to being like a deceitful snake, to being a leading staff. I think about many of these crazy Palestinian protesters. Excuse me for getting political here, but I don't think this is no longer politics. I think at this point, this is life and death. You have crazy protesters who have no idea what they're protesting. They're living a life of deception. They're living like that snake because it's cool, because it's popular, because it's comfortable. Why can't they be a staff? Why can't they be a leader? Why can't they learn and understand and open their mind? Leave and escape Egypt. God willing, we should all escape Egypt. We should all be free. We should hear only good news. Okay, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.